It blows my mind, and I know it. The demand is just far more than we could reasonably make. High volume and high margin. Well, powertrain is pretty damn good. I mean, it's way better than anything else out there by a country mile. The Plaid Powertrain is like mind-blowing, I think. This is like alien technology. It's insane.
Hey, this is Warren Redlick. I'm really excited about Tesla's investor presentation yesterday. There's a lot of big news that came out of it. A lot of people are talking about a lot of different things. Let's get started with what's really exciting. The biggest one is batteries. Batteries. I'm going to talk about that first. Other things I'm going to talk about include Cybertruck, Model Y, full self-driving and feature complete and when that's coming, Powertrain, Starlink, and Tesla, and how Tesla might or might not use Starlink, and Dojo. But I want to start with batteries. Elon he was asked about batteries, and I think something that a lot of people are missing. People get excited about Cybertruck. People get excited about Tesla Semi or the Roadster. And there's this point that Elon made that they have to make more batteries. This is all about battery production. We have this image of Tesla as this huge growing company. But in order to make all the cars they're talking about making, they need to make enough batteries for all those cars. And right now they're constrained. This is the big constraint that has always been holding Tesla back for a long time now, has been battery production. Because as Elon put it, we can make different models, but until we make enough batteries, it's just a question of which model we're making, not that we're making more cars.
If you don't improve battery production capacity, then you end up just shifting unit volume from one product to another, and you haven't actually produced more electric vehicles.
And they are growing, but they're growing too slowly. And Elon talked about getting to 2,000 gigawatt hours a year.
We've got a very steep ramp in battery production and continue to improve the cost per kilowatt hour of the batteries. How do you get from here to, a couple thousand gigawatt hours a year?
Tesla in total is producing more like 50 or 60 gigawatt hours per year. You want to get to 2,000, that's more than 30 times as many batteries. In order to produce all the models they're talking about producing, you need to produce enough batteries for all those models, plus you need to produce batteries for storage. Another side to that is if you can make things more efficient, then you get more out of each battery. But I think this is the big thing. The battery day is coming.
We're going to talk about this in Battery Day, which is it's going to be a very compelling story that we have to present. I think it's going to actually blow people's minds. It blows my mind, and I know it.
Elon said that Battery Day would be in April. I think if we go on Elon time, maybe it'll really be June. But Battery Day is coming, and at Battery Day, I think the expectation is that Elon and Tesla will be explaining what changes they are making to be able to deliver more efficient batteries with a higher energy density, with a lower cost per kilowatt hour, so more kilowatt hours per kilogram, and lower cost per kilowatt hour, and then at the same time increase production dramatically. I think the biggest problem is right now I think the batteries are pretty good. They're going to get better, and that's important. But the big focus now is increasing the volume of production. We just need more batteries. And if we can increase batteries dramatically, that's where the growth story is. If Tesla can't get more batteries, there's a limit to how many cars they can make, and that limits the growth story. Briefly, there was a short discussion about Cybertruck. Plays into this thing, Cybertruck doesn't matter unless you produce enough batteries for Cybertruck. What really stood out to me about Cybertruck was just Elon's reference to that demand is so strong that there's more demand than they really can make.
The Cybertruck.
The demand is just far more than we could reasonably make in the space of 3 or 4 years, something like that.
There's enough demand already for 3 or 4 years of Cybertruck production when they're at full production. So there is no demand issue with Cybertruck. Lots of people want it. There was another reference Elon said to the technology inside Cybertruck is even more amazing than people realize. There's things in there we don't know about yet. That's a nice little teaser for when Cybertruck is revealed, in full. The production model is revealed in 2021. Who knows what else is being thrown in there? This is going to be really exciting. I confess that I have an order in. I got my order in the first hour, my reservation for a dual motor Cybertruck, and I'm very excited and can't wait to get it. Another detail Elon talked about was full self-driving. Someone asked him when it will be feature complete. He has suggested it might be feature complete by the end of 2019. That hasn't happened. In response, Elon said, well, I said I hoped it would be feature complete, and it's not. He was very clear in defining what feature complete means. That feature complete means very simply that it is capable, with some probability, of being able to drive you from home to work with no intervention.
You know, it's looking like we might be feature complete in a few months. But feature complete just means like it has some chance of going from your home to work, let's say, with no interventions. So it doesn't mean the features are working well, but it means it has some, above zero chance. So I think that's looking like maybe it's going to be a couple months from now.
That you get in your car, you say, take me to work, and it takes you to work. You just press the take me to work button. And it is above a zero probability that it will make it without you having to intervene. At this point, feature complete isn't there yet. He thinks it's a couple months away. Related to that, what really stood out to me, and this was another one of those big moments, batteries, I think the biggest, but this is one of those big moments, is talking about what's going on behind the scenes that will make autonomy happen. And what we're seeing now when you see videos of people doing their cars on Smart Summit or people driving their cars on self-driving is, it's not perfect. It's got flaws. They're still working on it. But Elon made this reference to that with what they're working on, which he didn't say the word Dojo, but I think he was referring to Dojo, that they're working on being able to process video. And he referred to an improvement in labeling efficiency.
A really fundamental thing is moving to video training and all 8 cameras simultaneously. I mean, in terms of labeling efficiency, arguably like a 3 order of magnitude improvement in labeling efficiency.
Which relates to object detection and other things that are going on behind the scenes, but the labeling efficiency, and he said a 3 order of magnitude improvement in labeling efficiency. This is something that's going on behind the scenes that is enabling Tesla self-driving cars to be much more effective at being able to do self-driving. And labeling efficiency is about things like object detection, recognizing objects, recognizing events perhaps, and labeling what they are and how they're going to act. And a 3 order of magnitude improvement, for those who aren't familiar with math, a 3 order of magnitude improvement, if you go from 1 to 10, that's 1 order of magnitude. If you go from 10 to 100, that's an order of magnitude. If you go from 1 to 100, that's 2 orders of magnitude. This means going from 1 to 1,000, so it's basically 1,000 times better. They're going for a 1,000-fold improvement, a 3 order of magnitude improvement in labeling efficiency. And this is a critical feature in making self-driving work. So when he said that, my eyes popped. Like 3 orders of magnitude, that's what they're going for. Between Dojo and the full self-driving chip, hardware 3, and maybe where they're heading with hardware 4, that's what's coming. Another really big moment in the investor call was talking about powertrain efficiency. Elon was, I would say, borderline bragging about how effective the Model S powertrain is because he compared it to the Porsche Taycan.
Well, that powertrain is pretty damn good. I mean, it's way better than anything else out there by a country mile. It's worth noting, for example, that the Model S has like 100 kilowatt hour pack. The Taycan has 95 kilowatt hour pack. The Model S is steadily approaching 400 miles range. The Taycan has 200 miles range. So we must be using that energy pretty efficiently, and the powertrain is a big part of that.
He mentioned, by the way, that the powertrain is so efficient in the Model S that it's approaching 400 miles in range. 380 miles. He says it's not officially rated that by the EPA, but they're seeing it's effectively got a 380 miles range, and they're still improving. He talked about powertrain, and he made this reference to the Plaid Powertrain, and he almost said it under his breath when he said Plaid. It was hard to hear in the call.
The Plaid Powertrain is like mind-blowing, I think. Coming out later this year, end of the year probably. That's our goal, get the Plaid Powertrain out end of the year. And then it's going to be like, this is like alien technology. It's insane.
It's all about
I didn't even think we could do. Honestly, I thought it was no way.
The Plaid version of Model S is coming, he said, towards the end of the year, and he described the powertrain in the Plaid version, the Plaid Powertrain, which I think is the same powertrain that's going to be going in Cybertruck, or at least in the tri-motor Cybertruck, and also perhaps in the Roadster. He described the Plaid Powertrain as like alien technology. Model Y is now rated for 315 miles of range in the all-wheel drive model. It was originally rated for 280 miles of range.
And we managed to achieve by far the highest energy efficiency of any electric SUV ever produced at 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour, which means Model Y all-wheel drive got an EPA rating of 315 miles.
This is an indication, again, about that improved efficiency of the powertrain and perhaps battery chemistry as well, that they're doing some amazing work here. And this will help sell Model Y, which is already going to sell great. There was another reference that Elon made to when it comes out, there will be a teardown.
When people do a teardown of the Model Y, I think they'll be impressed about some of the things they see.
For those who really follow this stuff, there's this guy, Sandy Monroe, who does teardowns of various cars and does reports so that people can understand what's going on with the technology inside. And he's done some Tesla teardowns. And he's had some really interesting things to say about what Tesla's doing. He's generally very impressed, although he's been critical of some issues. There's some speculation about what is going on with the Model Y, how they're making it. There's a lot of people who think they may be using whole frame casting, that the entire frame of the vehicle is cast in one piece, and that this is more efficient and it saves weight and makes it stronger. And there's also a lot of people think, I think both of these, we'll see, that they're using this new wiring system that uses far less wire, which reduces weight and makes it more efficient and may make it more efficient to manufacture. Improving how Model Y is made will eventually turn into perhaps improving how Model 3 is made. There was a reference, by the way, to the Shanghai Gigafactory, how it's laid out and making Model 3 is much more efficient than how the Model 3 is made in Fremont. We can expect that something similar will happen in Berlin, in Brandenburg, where the European Gigafactory will be built, that we're going to see manufacturing efficiencies there. And Tesla seems to learn every time, so Gigafactory Berlin is the third iteration. Don't be surprised if they come up with even more efficiencies in Gigafactory 3 and everything becomes even better. A small detail, but worth noting, was, because I thought this was a possibility, and it now looks like at least I was wrong in the short term. An analyst asked Elon about whether Tesla would be using Starlink, would be offering Starlink for Tesla. And Elon was pretty dismissive of that, at least in the short term.
Do you see potential for Tesla vehicles to be fitted with user terminals that are compatible with the Starlink constellation in the near or medium-term future?
It's certainly something that could happen in coming years. There's no plans to do it this year. The focus of Starlink is really for high bandwidth, low latency connectivity for homes and businesses and I guess aircraft and boats and that kind of thing. But the antenna for that high bandwidth, low latency thing is sort of about the size of a medium pizza, which you could put on a car, but I think is more bandwidth than you would really need. Technically, you could buy one and just stick it on the car.
Elon seems to think that that's not a critical feature in a car, at least not yet. That Starlink is more important for houses, for boats, for airplanes. Definitely, if you're outside a city, it could be useful. It didn't sound like there's any plans to integrate a Starlink antenna in a Tesla model. He said, you can put it on a Tesla and it'll work. And, it would make sense for people who are going out somewhere where they're not going to have good cell phone coverage, but otherwise he thinks you don't need it. The last thing I want to talk about is something Elon mentioned that relates to the long-term value of the company. And for investors, that's an important issue. It's an important issue just if you're a fan of the company. I personally am a long-term investor, so I care about it from that perspective, but really I'm just excited about what I see Tesla doing. So he talked about high margins and high volume.
The thing that's really going to, I think, probably just have a profound effect on our financials is is high volume and high margin, obviously. And that high margin part comes from autonomy. As we get closer to full self-driving, that's just going to become more and more compelling. So that's, from a financial standpoint, that's the real mind-blowing situation, is high volume, high margin because of autonomy.
Now, the first thing I mentioned with batteries before, you have to increase the number of batteries in order to increase the volume of cars sold. The margin he referred to as having to do with autonomy. See, when you make a car, you got to put steel in, you got all this labor putting it all together. The cost of the car to the company making the car is fairly high. So if they sell the car for $40,000, the cost of the car might have been $30,000, which means there's, a margin, the $10,000 gap between the cost of the car and what they sell it for. The beautiful thing about software, there's no extra cost in making another copy of the software. So autonomy is essentially software. And the price of full self-driving right now is $7,000 on a Tesla. It was $6,000, it went up to $7,000. As full self-driving improves, as it reaches autonomy, the value goes up tremendously, because let's say you own a Tesla Model 3 and you're able to send it out as a robo-taxi, and it makes you $30,000 a year for 10 years. That means you're making $300,000 off your $40,000 car. Well, that means it's not a $40,000 car anymore. That means you would pay well over $100,000 for that car. And now the margin for Tesla of selling a Tesla Model 3 goes from the difference between, say, $30,000 manufacturing cost and $40,000 sale price to $30,000 manufacturing cost plus essentially zero cost extra for the software, selling the car for over $100,000, maybe $200,000. Who knows what they're going to go for. So the margin goes much higher once full autonomy is achieved. This is why cracking autonomy is such a big deal. On the one hand, Tesla can just make cars for themselves. It's just a profitable business running their own robotaxi network with their own cars. But selling a car to someone, you're now selling that car for $100,000 instead of $40,000. You may be selling it for $150,000. There's a tremendous value add for Tesla. And if you're a shareholder, this is where the share price comes from. People think the share price is through the roof. It's crazy. They're comparing it to Volkswagen. They're comparing it to Toyota. It's not the same kind of company. Volkswagen, Toyota, General Motors, Ford, Honda, none of them has this software angle to how they can increase their margins. Their margins are never going to be more than 20, 25, 30%. Their margins are going to be stuck in that low number, where Tesla's margins are going to be approaching 100%. That is the beauty of what autonomy is. That's why Tesla is making so much effort into going into autonomy. So Elon mentioned it in the call, and I think that's a final point that's worth discussing. I still think the biggest issue is batteries, because yes, that margin's a big deal and it's great and they'll make a lot of money per car, but if they can make a lot more of the cars, right? If they can double, triple, make 10 times as many cars in the long run, because if they're going for a 30x increase in battery capacity, some of that's going to go to storage, but maybe means they make 20 times as many cars. So you make 20 times as many cars and you make $100,000 a car. Well, that's a huge amount of money. And the share price right now, the company's value is in the ballpark of $100 billion or $120 billion or so. This is a $1 trillion company. Maybe it's the first true, $2 trillion company. Tremendous value here for Tesla. And let's not forget, as I love to say about in one of my recent videos, this is great news for us. Whether you're a Tesla shareholder or not, whether you own a Tesla or not, what Tesla is doing is making the world a better place. It's reducing pollution, whether you believe in CO2 or not. All the other stuff coming out of a tailpipe from an internal combustion engine isn't good either. So it's reducing pollution. It is making the cost of transportation lower for the average person who can't afford a car. Now the cost of a robo-taxi will be less than the cost of an Uber. So many things that are wonderful about this. So excited to be living in this world and so looking forward to what's coming. So thank you again for watching, and please below comment. Of course, I'd love it if you subscribe, check out some of my other videos. Thanks very much.